Well, hello, and welcome back to another podcast episode with Brittany Bundles. You are listening to the Brittany Bundles podcast, where we empower people through entrepreneurship. And today's going to be a credit portion or a credit inspired or targeted podcast. I guess that's the right phrase to go with. It's a credit targeted podcast, and I want to talk about some reasons why credit is important to have. There's so many opinions as far as, do I want to live a life having credit, or do I want to live a life without it? Do I want to get to the point where I don't need credit at all? Or do I want to always be able to leverage it for my benefit? And although I believe that two things can be right at the same time, so, I'm not going to say that I don't understand and resonate with both sides of that coin, but I am going to say that I think it's important that we all, equipped ourselves with the knowledge necessary to make informed decisions on what's going to best benefit our lives and our financial future. Okay. And also the ones that we love. So, understanding that what I do today doesn't just impact today, it does impact or can have an impact for years to come. And then it can also impact my family as well. So, just making sure that we're very, like I said before, aware and educated on the impacts of our decision. That way, we can figure out what's best for us and what we want to do. We actually have an idea of what we're working towards. So, today I'm going to be talking about why credit matters, some perks to having credit. And I'm not just going to say, hey, if you have credit, you can purchase that house you want, or hey, with credit, you can get that new car. But I am going to go over some other things that people may not really consider as a first point of reasoning when they ask themselves, well, why is credit important, anyways? Um, Before we actually get into the podcast, I want to go over a brief story with you all. So recently I was out to dinner or brunch with a group of friends, and um, it came up in conversation, the question of, well, why is, what are you looking to do with your credit? Pretty much, what is your motivation for keeping and maintaining good credit? Are you trying to get a new car? Do you want a new house? And I replied back and I said, I want freedom. I want options. I want the ability to do what I want to do. And like I said before, some people resonate with that and some people don't. I don't think that there's necessarily a right or wrong way to go about how you want to structure your financial future, as long as it makes sense for you. Again, two things can be right at the same time, but there are some people that really don't understand how credit can benefit their lives. Having access to credit can benefit their lives if they're not looking to purchase a house or a car. And so I want to talk about some of those ways in this podcast episode today that credit can be beneficial. So if you're new to the Brittany Bundles podcast, welcome. Be sure to share the podcast. Sharing the podcast helps to promote entrepreneurs that have been on prior episodes. It also helps to get the word out about what we're doing. Also, if you're returning, welcome back. Thank you so much for coming back and supporting the Brittany Bundles podcast. I truly appreciate it. Be sure that you do your part in sharing as well. You can share the podcast by inviting a family member or a friend to listen to the podcast in the car with you. If you're going somewhere, you can share it via social media. You can share the podcast via text message. So get creative, share the podcast. I'll give you a moment to do that, and I'll be right back in just a moment. All right. All right. So we are back, and today we're talking about some reasons why it matters to maintain a good credit profile. And I want to steer away from saying a good credit score, because I've mentioned in some other videos on my YouTube channel at Brittany Bundles in my credit playlist how it's not always about the score that's going to give you an approval or denial. So it's important to not only focus on the score. Just focusing on the score has people doing some things in certain circumstances that aren't necessarily wise. And they end up doing all of this stuff and they still don't get to accumulate what it is they were actually looking to accumulate with the high credit score. So it's really good to have and maintain a healthy credit profile. That means demonstrating the behaviors, even if you made mistakes in the past, but still demonstrating the behaviors of someone that is trustworthy, of being responsible with money. Okay. Someone that has good problem solving skills, someone that is able to make good on debt, that's following through on contracts and commitments. I used to hear when I worked in the financial industry, and I still hear this to this day, people saying, well, my credit's already messed up, so I might as well not pay on this loan, or hey, I might as well just let this account close or this line just, do what it does because I already have accounts and collections that are pulling my credit down. So what's the point of me working to pay down any debt? And although I can understand where that analogy comes from, I don't agree with it. Just because you made a mistake before doesn't mean that, again, you can't dig yourself out of the hole. And bankruptcy is not the only option out there to do that. Okay. And I don't think we talk a lot about the effects, the full effect, the full picture of bankruptcy. And I'm not saying that it's not necessary in some circumstances, but I am saying that there are some people that will actually have a better financial future or a chance at a better financial future if they would have created a plan, stuck to it, and actually paid down debt and learned better spending habits. So, when you're questioning, if you're one of those people and you've been like, hey, I don't know why I even need credit, instead of me paying off my credit or paying down these credit card bills or paying off this loan or making my payments like I agreed to, I'm just going to spend the money on something else because my credit's not good anyways. I already have a car, I have a place to stay, so what's the point? Keep in mind that you want to have as many options as you possibly can. Not saying that you're going to utilize every option, but having choices is connected to freedom, being able to freely choose what you want to do and not having to take an option because you don't have any other options available. Being pushed inside of a box where you have to choose just from one lender because they're the only ones that will lend to you is not a good feeling. And a lot of times you pay for that. You pay for that uh, literally because when a lender knows that you don't have decent credit, when they know that you haven't made good on a lot of your commitments in the past, they have the ability to charge really whatever within the legal range they can as far as interest rates. There are some loans, like payday advance loans, with interest rates of over 100%. There are some auto loans with interest rates around 20%. It's just not a financially smart place to be, and it doesn't feel good where you are when you're put between an option to either get this car for 20% interest or pay for Ubers to get to work each day. When you have bad credit, a lot of times it costs more. Typical things that you're doing day to day can cost more than if you did have a good credit profile. And I'm going to give you an example. So let's just take car insurance. There are some car insurance companies, if not all, that will run your credit check before they can provide a quote. Your credit score can definitely have an impact on the overall amount that you're paying for your credit, for your insurance rate, excuse me. If you have a credit score that isn't as favorable, you may have a higher rate. And so sometimes we don't think about the future, we think about just now. And we have to pay for those decisions that we're when we're thinking about just now and not for the future. Another thing that maybe some may not consider is life insurance. With some life insurance policies, there's also a credit check required. I want to talk about something else too, and I'm not going to keep you all too long. I just want to kind of have the wheels turning as to why I believe having a good credit profile is worth it. Whether you decide to utilize credit or not, you still have those options and you still have that as a backup. Let's say that you are moving and you want cable or internet at your new place. Well, most times there's a credit check for that as well. Same analogy for cell phones. Some cell phone companies, and I know there's always an exception. Someone may be saying, well, hey, you can get a phone here without a credit check. I'm saying the options. I've also looked into different phones before in the past or phone plans where you didn't need credit checks. And I was like, wow, what's the catch type of thing? Well, these plans are so cheap. You're telling me for $35 I can get unlimited everything, go any place. And I can tell you that when I tried that phone, I canceled that service within, I would say maybe a week, because I wasn't able to get as good of a reception every place that I was used to getting the good reception at. You really pay for what you get. So their towers, even though they may have used or have access to some of the larger cell phone towers, they don't have the same ability to go every single place or have service and coverage every single place that the other bigger carriers would have. And if they did have that access, then the carriers that were actually paying for postpaid service, they received priority. They received precedence over those that were paying month to month. So if there was a time where the towers were getting crowded because a lot of people were calling, or a time where the lines were busy, or a lot of people were maybe traveling, spring break, or whatever the case may be. If someone needed to use that line for a better signal, the postpaid accounts would get that option over people that were paying month to month. And I didn't know that when I got the month to month service. I just thought, hey, why not? Why not? But there are options. And there are some people that are like, look, I don't travel any place. So this, month to month works well for me, but they still have the option. I don't ever want to be in a position where I don't have options. I can't make choices. I don't have multiple things to choose from. I just have to either take this or not. And so when you do have a good credit profile, it gives you options to explore, and it gives you options to decide and choose what you want to go with. Even if we still away from, like, the car insurance rates, life insurance, internet, cable, cell phone, have you considered renting a car? Okay, so we have a couple different rental places here in my hometown, and you can use your debit card with a deposit for some of the rental places. But if you want to go to the airport where they typically have more vehicles in stock, from my experience, they have better vehicles and it's an overall better experience, you need a credit card. Okay, even if you're not necessarily applying for anything, it's just the simple fact that you want a car. Or let's say that you're, going on a trip and you don't want to use your personal debit card, you want to use your credit card. Okay, well, you would need to be able to get a credit card first to do that. So all I'm saying is, even if you're not thinking about, hey, I want to purchase a house, or hey, I want to buy a car, think about what you may want to do. And not even thinking about, okay, well, I may want to travel in the future, but think about making sure that you have options and that your family is always secure. There are times that you may not want to touch your money. You may want to put something on a credit card. You may get incentivized for doing that. And so, like I said in the beginning of the podcast, two rights can be, two different ideas can be right at the same time. You can have two rights. That's okay. There are some people that are like, look, I still have a great life. I enjoy how I'm living and I don't use credit at all. And that is fine. But all I'm saying is consider still maintaining and working toward your credit to constantly improve it, even if you're not looking to readily buy something today, because a lot of us are impulsive and we don't train ourselves to think for the future. We don't train ourselves to process what we're actually doing. We just think about, well, did I get what I wanted today? And although that may feel satisfying for today, I'm telling you, it may bring you a lot of regret as the years progress when you want to get something and you don't have that option. Now, it's one thing to want something, have the options, and still say, hey, it's okay, I'm not really wanting to use my credit. But it's another thing to want something and not have the option at all. So now you're stuck in a position where you're constantly renting. You may not want to purchase a house this year, but 5 years from now, you may. You may not want a new car today, but cars depreciate, and cars, they do have, mechanical issues, and they're things, right? So there's a good chance that your car won't run forever. And so when that car stops running, you may want to take out cash and buy a cash car, right? I mean, that's an option. But you also may want to say, hey, I really like that car that I saw on the lot, and I want to be able to finance it. So you want to be able to have that option. So, making sure that you're responsible, it keeps your options open. Not just does it keep your options open, but like I mentioned a little bit ago, it also saves you more money. It costs more money to have poor credit. It costs more to have poor credit, even if you get that vehicle. Let's say that you have poor credit and you got approved for a vehicle. You're going to pay higher interest 9 times out of 10 than if you had a better score, if you had a better profile. Okay. So when we're talking about building our credit, I don't want to just talk about a certain number, right? Like, okay, let's just get a 700 credit score. I much rather talk about how it's important to have a solid credit profile, like I mentioned before, and how it's important to encompass those habits needed to keep your credit where it needs to be. Because sometimes, you may not, the least amount time that you're thinking about accessing additional funds, it may not cross your mind. You may not think about it until years, you know years further ahead. And then if you have children, you want to make sure that you have stability for them as well. You want to make sure that you have backup resources. And I look at credit as that, a backup resource. If I need funds today, if something happened and I just needed money, I would be able to go and get a loan to do so. Okay. And credit is not just all about getting things either. That's what I wanted to outline in this podcast. It's not just about, okay, I need credit because I want to get something. But no, like I said, there are certain things, life insurance, car insurance, rental cars, if you're traveling, there are just some things that you may not want to, that you not even want to, that you may be required to have a credit check for, and that you may want to use a credit card for instead of your debit card. So I recommend doing research, educating yourself on the importance of obtaining your good financial patterns. If you don't have any, then acquiring good financial patterns and being able to work toward eliminating your debt and work toward building your credit in the event of, okay? Even if you're not looking to purchase anything, you never know what you can use it for. There are some people that have really upscaled their business by utilizing money that credit allowed them to access, giving them a higher spending power to turn their company into a multi-million dollar company. So it's not all about just using something today, but it's about being able to have those resources readily accessible if and when we want to take advantage of them. And then also being able to live our day to day lives. Like I said before, getting cable if we need to, internet, cell phone, without having to be limited to one option or no options at all. All right, so I really hope that this podcast helped someone out there that may have been thinking, hey, what's the point of credit, anyways? Just to give you some ideas. Of course, I didn't name every single idea of why credit is important to me, but I just wanted to give you some to kind of get the wheels turning. If you are interested in repairing your credit, be sure to book a consultation with me on my website at bchcreditrepairs.com. That's B as in boy, C as in Charlie, H as in Henry, creditrepairs.com. I am not a credit repair company where I'm just going to say, hey, I'm going to dispute this, and then your credit score is going to be great and everything is going to be great. I am an advocate for financial stability. And so I'm going to also talk to you about ways that you can strengthen your credit profile and some tools and habits that you can use to keep your credit profile good. Because a lot of times it's not just about wiping the slate clean, it's also about teaching how the slate got like this. And a lot of times it's deeper than, okay, you just didn't pay a bill. Looking into budgeting habits and looking into spending impulses and looking into how consistent your stream of income or incomes are. All of that matters. Okay, all of that matters. It's not just about let's dispute this and get a high credit score. So if you're interested in really building your credit or rebuilding your credit, book a consultation with me on my website. Also, please be sure to follow me on YouTube at Brittany Bundles. That is Brittany, Brittney, Bundles, Bundles. You can follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Brittany Bundles, Facebook, Brittany Bundles, and Instagram, Brittany_Bundles. Until next time, I'll talk to you all in the next podcast episode.